Not what if anymore, but only when. That is the question now, where the mind-boggling subject of cloning is concerned. When will such a thing be attempted with human beings? With animals, it has already been done. Out of a little bit of the genetic material of one creature, another entirely identical creature has been spawned. We've arrived at a genesis in a way, only this time the hands holding the stuff of which new life might be made are not divine but mortal. Imagine a being indistinguishable from you. As Randall Pinkston reports now in this morning's cover story, this is not a flight of fancy anymore.
In 2 weeks that rocked the scientific world, researchers in Scotland created a sheep named Dolly, the first mammal made by cloning cells from an adult. Then came word from Oregon that rhesus monkeys, a species much closer to man, had also been cloned. That raised the inevitable next question. Is human cloning possible too?
Most scientists indeed thought it probably could not be done even with animals.
Daniel Callahan, a bioethicist at New York's Hastings Center, has been watching cutting-edge medical research for 25 years.
Animal research probably opens the door very widely to doing it with human beings. I could well imagine a situation that some scientist would suddenly one day, 10, 20 years from now, announce, I have cloned a human being.
Science often moves faster than our ability to understand its implications. That is why we have a responsibility to move with caution and care.
Last week, that uncertainty moved President Clinton to tighten an existing ban on federally funded research into human cloning. He ordered an advisory commission to report back in 90 days on what to do next.
Each human life is unique, born of a miracle that reaches beyond laboratory science. I believe we must respect this profound gift and resist the temptation to replicate ourselves.
It's been a brave new world since 1978, when baby Louise became the first test tube baby, the first person born through in vitro fertilization. Cloning is a very big step beyond. It bypasses the biology we learned in high school, eliminates the need for sperm, and allows precise selection of the DNA, the genetic material, to be inserted into an egg. The result? A new being with the same genetic identity. If done in humans, that raises real problems.
I would see the most significant dangers as really opening the door to a type of parenthood and to parental desires that I think would be enormously unhealthy and undesirable. Is it a good thing to want a child in your own image? I would say no, it's certainly not. This is serving the needs and the desires and the pleasures of the parent and not any known needs of children.
The Dolly breakthrough helps medical research first. It may allow scientists to breed many identical test animals, cutting the cost of drug trials, getting results faster. Cancer researchers are also excited. They suspect cloning may involve some of the same biological triggers that cause tumors. And says Dr. Barry Bavister, a biologist at the University of Wisconsin, cloning could have major economic impact on milk and meat production.
If you have an extremely valuable animal that's valuable for genetic reasons, or a cow that produces a lot of milk, you could clone her and produce multiple copies, all with the same productivity.
The rush is now on to duplicate the Dolly experiment in other animals. Here at the University of Wisconsin, scientists are trying to clone cows.
These scientists, who understand the technical hurdles between cloning animals and cloning humans, say the challenges are no longer insurmountable.
So you're saying human clones are possible?
I think Dolly said that human clones are possible.
Barry Bavister and his wife, Dorothy Boatman, are leading researchers in the science of in vitro fertilization. Using animals, they have pioneered methods now widely used with human couples desperate to have children. But cloning humans is a barrier they say they won't cross.
This kind of thing is utterly repugnant, and I am not going to be involved in it, nor is anybody I know.
There is no particular need to clone human beings to make identical human beings. I can see no value to society for that and no reason to do it.
Our fear of human cloning comes mostly from fiction. It's a world of eugenics where clones either rule as masters or serve the needs of their creators. But in reality, we already know what cloned humans might be like, and that's far different from fiction. John and Charles Robinson are human clones, natural ones, born identical twins. But to hear them tell it, they're hardly identical.
There's things I like that he doesn't like. There's things he likes that I hate. And to be identical down to our very core, you would have to train me to not like the things that I like that he doesn't like.
Hey, he won't eat raw carrots.
I eat raw carrots, but I don't find them interesting. You love them. He eats peanuts. I can't stand them.
They're really unique persons in their own right. So this idea that somehow or other clones would be so similar that it would be a kind of a scary process can be dissipated very quickly by simply talking with a pair of twins.
Psychologist Thomas Bouchard of the University of Minnesota studies identical twins.
50% of the variance between them will be genetic, but the other 50% will be environment and accidents. So there'll be a large hunk of uniqueness in each individual.
It's just silly. The whole fear about cloning, I think, is silly. It's another person, just like any other person. Genetics is just a very small part
Of what they are.
of what they are.
But artificial human clones would not really be twins either. They would be a genetic photocopy of one person. And that, says bioethicist Callahan, would be unfair to the clone.
To me, the real issue is that we are all genetically unique. We're individual. No one is like you and me, ever has been before, not right now. Cloning would actually create somebody who was really made in somebody else's image. I would be created as somebody else rather than the individual person I might be.
It's a confusing picture. Others see some limited benefits from human cloning. For example, creating a genetic double to provide better matching for bone marrow and other transplants.
To make human clones for scientific purposes, to me, is an offensive idea.
Last week, even as he defended the president's ban, National Institutes of Health Director Harold Varmus conceded there might be some appeal for infertile couples.
There is, however, the issue of creating human clones to combat reproductive deficiencies. My own sense is that if ever to be used, would be used incredibly sparingly.
Researchers insist their own professional checks and balances will be enough to prevent a Frankenstein experiment by some mad scientist. Barry Bavister.
But all sensible moral scientists are not going to do it because there's no point in doing it. It would be enormously expensive. You'd have to do it in secret, and once it came out, you would be finished as a scientist.
I think one needs to look at these new technologies and assume they probably will be done by somebody at some time, simply because of the technical challenge, the intellectual thrill of doing something like this has got to appeal to at least a 1 or 2 scientists out there somewhere in the world.
Ethicist Daniel Callahan is aware of one very important fact about the history of science. If something can be done, it usually is.
Put it this way, it has to be somebody who really wants to do it. The only thing that could stop the scientist would be he couldn't find the money to do it. But other than that, there's really nothing to stand in the way, it seems to me.